You're listening to the Public Health Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley. There's way more to closing out September and starting October than just scrolling into a new month. There's a whole energy shift happening and several important things to focus on in your business during this time. I'm sharing a few of those things with you in this episode. Welcome to Public Health Entrepreneurs, the podcast for visionary leaders who are ready to transform public health and healthcare through innovation. I'm your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and as a public health entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience in healthcare and public health, I understand the unique challenges and opportunities that come with bridging multiple disciplines. Now, at the time that this episode is released to you, we are right at the very beginning of Q4 or quarter four, which is one of my favorite times of the year. I'll explain to you why, and then I want to share with you a few things that we really need to be focused on right now. So September closed out quarter three. If you're following the year in calendar marks and quarters, it's a significant shift. There are 4 quarters in the year. When we start the fourth quarter, it's exciting to me because we get to focus on finishing the year strong. We get to take a look at where we are in terms of our goals for the year and, looking at what we can do to make some important shifts so that we can reach that goal or make some adjustments to attain that goal or whatever it is we need to do. It's very similar to running a race. If it's a long stretch and you're getting to the very end, you want to pick up the pace. You want to do whatever you need to do to really finish strong, run a little harder. And that's what the end of the quarter feels like. But also, it is a time where we get to kind of brush off. Like, okay, so good, bad, or indifferent, we're wrapping up a year and we get to start fresh with planning the next year. And I do all of that in the fourth quarter so that we can, as a team, can take a nice pause at the end of the year, kind of reset our minds. And then when we kick off the new year, we hit the ground running. I don't wait to get into the new year to start planning for the new year. I start planning it during Q4. So that's what has always worked for me. That's the way I was trained. That's the support I've received from coaches in the past. And it's the way that I support clients. And I encourage you to think about your business is really using that fourth quarter to both finish strong and start to put into place, thinking about what you want to do for the new year and then what your need to adjust in order to reach those goals for the new year so that you get into Q1 and you get to make the most of it instead of getting into Q1 and using a lot of that time to plan. And then I feel like you're kind of behind at that point. Okay. So again, in Q4, I'm also spending some time thinking about what do I really want? It's a visionary time. So I've made a few notes. I'd like to go through a few things for you to think about as you are at this time of the year. So as you're listening to this, you may be any place along the business development. You may be early in stages of your business, or you may have been in business for a very long time. I think this time of year is a nice reset no matter where you are. This is perfect for people who are brand new, and it's a perfect time to consider some of these things I'm going to share with you if you've been in business for a very long time. So a few things to remember. I like to focus or take a very good look at the sales forecast. Now, I actually have a spreadsheet that I've talked about on this podcast in the past. If you've worked with me before, we've likely gone through a forecast and I've shared the spreadsheet with you. But it's a very simple tool. It helps us to keep track of what we're expecting to receive in terms of revenue for the business. So let's say, for example, you have a client contract and let's say it's $100,000. And for the sake of easy numbers, let's say that that's over a period of 10 months and you're billing or you're invoicing that client in equal increments, $10,000 a month for 10 months, which is the life of that contract of $100,000. So you literally could put on your forecast and also easy. Let's say you started in January and it goes through October. So you could start by putting each month you expect $10,000 each month from that client. And let's list, maybe you have 5 clients and each one of those clients may have a different value for the contract. Maybe one contract is 6 months and it's a different value. Maybe you receive $5,000 a month in revenue from that client. And then you've got the larger one we just talked about, the $100,000 client, and you receive that $10,000 a month increase. So if you start listing all your clients and what you expect to receive based on the agreement or based on maybe how you've been billing them, you get a sense of what revenue is coming into your business. You have a sense of it helps you with planning. And so you have the sales forecast. You also keep a line in this spreadsheet where you can, let's say you have forecasted $50,000 in revenue for the month of February. And then when you receive your bookkeeping reports, maybe you actually receive $40,000 in revenue. So you enter that number in and you can see at a glance what you're actually receiving versus what you're forecasted to receive. And then you can start to troubleshoot to see where there are any gaps. And also there are times when you receive more than you had forecasted. But it's a great tool for planning purposes, especially if you're looking to hire in the future or you like to hire. When you get a sense of what's already contracted coming into your business, then it gives you also a good point to know where you need to amp up your business development. Maybe you see in a few months down the road, there's a dip in what you forecasted in revenue. So maybe this is a time for you to be doing more business development, conversations, sales conversations, looking for new business, maybe looking at some of those connections that you have that are prospects and revisiting them and having those sales conversations to see if you can secure a new client so that you can fill in that gap that's in your forecast. So a forecast is a great tool. If you don't have one, you can create something simply based on what I've described to you, or, you can certainly reach out to me. I'd be happy to go over that with you in more depth and more specifically to your business. But right now, if you review your sales forecast, it's a great time to know just where you're looking to finish strong for the year. So how does your revenue look for this quarter four or Q4, October, November, December? And likewise, what does it look like going into the new year? You may not have it filled in all the way right now at the beginning of, if you have a lot of federal clients or if your clients are funded through federal funds, then this marks a very pivotal new year mark for them. So you may not have full details of your forecast. You may have talked about what the new contracts will look like, and maybe they start fresh with October or November. But if you have a sense of like what you've discussed or what you're anticipating, you can still kind of pencil that in on your forecast to give you some idea of what is in your pipeline. You maybe enter it in your forecast, but in a different color or something like that. So it feels like you're penciling it in. And then once it's solidified, then you can change the color, for example. But having a sense of what those new onboarding clients will look like and how you're finishing the year, you may decide that you need to do something rapid, like a rapid revenue kind of generator or something to that effect to generate funds to help you meet those revenue goals or whatever the case may be. But the sales forecast is a great resource for you and your business. And it could be as simple as a spreadsheet that, like I said, just you can make it really simple and create on your own that just incorporates what I just described to you. So that's a great tool. If you don't have one, then I suggest you create something that can help you keep track of what's happening. It may simply be maybe you have it in a notebook and you have it written down, but some kind of accountability of what's coming up. Because if you don't have that forecast, your mind can play games with you and you can feel like you're not doing really well and you're struggling. But in reality, if you look at, no, I've got 3 or 4 of these contracts in place and this is what I'm expecting in the next few months, it can help you calm down when, in your mind, that's a mindset issue kind of slipping in there if you start to worry or panic about where the business is. Okay. So the sales forecast is one thing. And all the little important pieces that I've mentioned are something to review right now. Another item is, how's your team? You can certainly review what that looks like. Are you looking to make any new hires in the next quarter? Or is that something that is in your plan for maybe the beginning of the year or whatever? But if it's something that you're considering, if it's been on your plan and you're looking to make a new hire at this time of the year, some people really like to bring on new hires toward the end of the year so they can have time to wrap up the new year together or the end of the year together and they start fresh with the new year. That's completely up to you when you decide you need to bring someone on. But in general, how's your team doing? If it's not new hires, maybe assessing the team that you have right now for gaps. Are they performing the way you expect them or need them to? I have a system where I rate the members of my team on a star scale. I rate my clients and my team members. And you have to decide, what's the rule for you? Are your team members performing at a 5-star level or 4-star level? Are they performing less than that? And if they are, then look at why. And what are your rules? You get to set all the rules. What are your rules about a team member that's performing below standard? they can often be pulling on the team as a whole. And we have tiny businesses. So if you have a team member who's not really living up to the standards that you need for your business, then that can be a real drain. So this is a great time to assess your team, whether it's new hires or just assessing the team members that you currently have. Look for any gaps and then decide what you're going to do and how you're going to address those gaps that may exist. Another thing to review right now would be software or systems and processes, operations. So it's a good time to consider or implement a plan to change any changes you want to make at the end of the year or for the new year. Reviewing operations is really key because it's one of those components in the framework that I coach from that is vital to you being able to accomplish your goals. Essentially, you want to remember to streamline all processes as much as possible, right? You want to delegate, but before you even delegate to your team members, you want to streamline and automate anything that can be automated. If you decide that, yes, this has to happen, because sometimes you can start looking at what you're doing in business and decide, well, we don't need to do that anymore. That doesn't serve us. And then you may decide of what's left, what of these tasks can be automated, which will be fantastic, right? When you can automate, and there's so many beautiful tools to help you do that. What can you automate? And automate as much as you can in your business. And then with what's left over, what team members do I need to have that I can delegate these remaining tasks to? So that's something for you to review in terms of your systems, software, processes. And a great time to do that is right now, for the end of the year, if you want to, if it kind of ties into the reflection of a team, because if you identify gaps here, it may help you decide what you need to do with your team or team structure. I think it's a great time also in Q4 to, and not so much review, but to begin thinking about what you want for the new year. Allowing myself the time to think about that over a span, period is really helpful because sometimes on the spot, it's hard to really just come up with what you want. If you wait till the very end of the year and you're trying to set all this, it's really hard to think about all that. But some reflection time is really important. And this is where I really enjoy carving out visionary time alone. And you are the leader, the CEO, the owner of your business. You may be the solo person, right? But you have to think about what is the best direction for your business? And only you can answer that. So having some time, for me, I really do have to carve it out because I can't wait till I'm not busy. It just doesn't work like that. But if I schedule blocks of time, and I call it CEO time or visionary time, the little blocks on your calendar where clients can't fit in there, no one else can interrupt you, and you are just allowed to think about your business and think about, review and reflect. What's working, what's not? What do I really want to be doing? What do I like about what I'm doing that I want to keep doing? And some things to consider are revenue. Be really honest about the revenue. Are you happy with the revenue? Is it meeting the needs? Do you want that to increase? What does that look like for you and your business? What does that, you have to decide what that revenue number, what that number is, and what that sort of like defining the success. Work schedule is an important thing to be thinking about during this visionary time. Do you like your work schedule? Do you have a consistent schedule, that structure? Are you working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday? Do you want to work 4 days a week or do you work 3 days a week? I've seen every sort of combination of scheduling that you could think of because I'm excited and it's intriguing to see how people can create their work schedule around, around their life. They decide this is how I want to live my life. And then I'm going to work around this. So I've seen people who work only Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I think that's fantastic because they want that other time as their family, their private time. I've seen people who work a short day, 1 day a week, and then they work full days the rest of the week. It's totally up to you, but you need some time to think about what you want and what is important to you. Also, what worked for you 2 years ago may not be working for you right now. I definitely can attest to that. The schedule that you loved once upon a time may not be serving you as well right now. So think about what that schedule looks like for you. Another thing in this visionary time is to think about client work. Think about your clients. Like I rate my clients. I only work with 4 and 5-star clients. And for me, that means if I can get excited about the mission of that organization, then we are all in because that's kind of how my team works. We're all in or all out. That fence sitting or mediocre work is just not where we want to be. And when you are in business for yourself, you get to decide that. So it helps us show up our best selves And we are all about this impactful work. So when we can get excited about the mission of the organization, then it helps us show up for that organization in a 5-star way. And it creates such a strong relationship. And I've learned this over time. So if you're at the very beginning of your business, you may not know exactly what type of clients are your 5-star yet and what type of clients really you get excited about and what lights you up. So you tend to do a little bit of everything, and that's perfectly fine because you will figure that out over time. But maybe you, at the end of the season we're talking about, the quarter 4, it's a great time to review the work that you've done, the clients you've worked with, and those relationships, and what do you want to continue to do, and what do you want to stop doing? What types of work do you want to continue to show up for? And it's sometimes a little bit more than a feeling, but like I said, that impactful work, that's important to us. That's a priority. Sometimes it may be that you decide that a certain size business is more ideal for you because it's better aligned than maybe a larger business as opposed to a smaller business, or vice versa. But this is a great time for you to think about that client work and the synergies and what has worked for you so far, even if you're only comparing it to this year. If this is your first year in business, compare what you've done so far and what you want to keep doing more of. And, what do you may be able to identify some things that are like, I definitely don't want to do that again. And that these are important things to note so that you don't go out attracting more of that type of business in the new year. So it's a great time during this visionary time, to be considering client work. I would also include here travel and just overall lifestyle. So traveling is something that it was a hard no for me when my kids were younger. And now that my kids are adults and we don't have the responsibilities of younger kids in the house, I love traveling. And it's a yes for me more cases than not. There are a lot of other criteria to say yes because it involves travel. But the opportunity to travel for me is wonderful. And for my team, because we love this hybrid blend of using technology to stay connected when we're not right together physically, and then also being able to travel and being in person, doing client work and delivering as often as we can. So that creates an opportunity just to really create stronger relationships across the board. So travel, but I've learned the type of travel that I enjoy a lot of and what I really don't want to do as much. The back-to-back travel is exciting for a little while, but I don't exactly like that. So I like some time back at home after I've traveled. I like to be at home for a little while before I hit the road again. So I've learned that by just saying yes to a lot of travel and learning what works and what doesn't work for me and my team, and deciding which team member goes on which types of trips with me and so forth. So considering your travel is important, and then the overall lifestyle, what you want with your personal private time is really important. And again, it's one of those things that if you've been in business for a while, it's a good thing to review if you haven't reviewed it or in the last few years, just to confirm this is really what I enjoy doing more, or still enjoy this, or maybe this is something it doesn't really serve me like it did 2 or 3 years ago. So all of this can be considered during the visionary time. And I wanted to raise all of these ideas with you. And you may think of several more as I've gone through some of this. But having this time in this quarter of the year is really, really important to helping you decide what's next for your business. All right. So I've gone through several things. Remembering the forecast, assessing your team, reviewing, the software systems, processes, what's working, what's not, thinking about what you want for the next year. And then, of course, that visionary time. I'm sure you can come up with several more things, but these are just some of the key things that surface as I considered chatting with you about preparing your business for this new quarter, this last quarter of the year. If you need guidance and support to help you with this type of decision and direction, applying the strategies that I've shared with you today, then I invite you to explore the opportunity to work together. And I think one-on-one would be the best way for me to be able to support you if you're feeling a little pulled or stuck with some of the things that I mentioned on this episode. As someone who has, really understands the unique challenges of being an interdisciplinary leader, I certainly can help you customize strategies and next steps. Visit publichealthentrepreneurs.com to learn more, and the links are also in the show notes. All right, everyone. Until next time, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Visit publichealthentrepreneurs.com to learn more.